Imagine coming home to your own house and feeling like a guest in it. Imagine your mother-in-law rearranging your kitchen cabinets without asking. Your father-in-law parking his truck in your driveway like he owns it. And your husband, the one person who should have your back, telling you to just let it go. When you finally snap, this is Lena's reality. But what happens next? She doesn't yell. She doesn't cry. She makes one move that forces everyone out in less than 24 hours. And if you've ever felt powerless in your own life, you need to watch this. Before we get into this, if you've ever dealt with toxic family dynamics, set a boundary that didn't stick, or felt completely alone in a relationship, hit that subscribe button. We're dropping stories like this every single week. Real situations, real people, real consequences. Don't miss it. Now, let's get into what Lena did. Lena was sitting at her kitchen table on a Tuesday morning when her husband Ryan texted her from work, "My parents' AC broke down. They're freaking out. Might need to stay with us for like a week while they get it fixed." She read it twice. A week. That seemed reasonable. It was August, it was hot, and his parents weren't exactly spring chickens. She texted back, "Yeah, that's fine. Just a week though." Ryan replied with a thumbs up emoji. That should have been her first warning. When his parents, Carol and Jim, showed up that Wednesday evening, they had 2 suitcases between them. Lena made up the guest room, ordered pizza, and tried to make them feel welcome. Carol gave her a sideways glance when Lena suggested they could use the guest bathroom, as if that was somehow offensive. "We'll just use the main one," Carol said, already heading toward the master bedroom hallway. "It's easier." By Friday, Lena noticed Carol had reorganized the pantry. The cereal was in a different cabinet. So were the canned goods. When Lena asked why, Carol just smiled and said, "It makes more sense this way, honey." Lena wanted to scream, but she didn't. She was trying. She'd always been the type to smooth things over, to keep the peace. Her therapist probably would have said something about that. But Lena wasn't paying someone $150 an hour to hear what she already knew about herself. By week 2, the just for a week had quietly become, "Until we figure some things out." Jim had set up a whole office situation in the living room. His laptop, his papers, his reading glasses sitting on the coffee table like permanent fixtures. Carol had opinions about everything: how Lena folded the towels, what she was making for dinner, why she hadn't called her mother in 2 weeks, her mother, not Ryan's mother, which made it somehow worsey. "You know, my day, we actually called our families," Carol said while watching Lena make lasagna. "Not just texted like it's 2024 or something." "It is 2024, Lena said quietly, not looking up from chopping garlic. "Exactly. That's the problem with your generation." Lena gripped the knife a little tighter. Ryan came home around 6 that night and found his mother sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, and his wife in the kitchen, moving with the kind of stiffness that meant she was angry but trying very hard not to show it. "Hey, babe," he said to Lena, kissing her head quickly. Then he immediately sat down next to his mom. "Mom, how are you doing? You feeling okay? Is the heat getting to you?" "Oh, I'm fine, honey. Your wife's been taking good care of us." The word hit different. It wasn't just his mom anymore. It was... Lena set the lasagna on the table without saying anything. That night, after his parents had gone to bed, Lena tried to bring it up. "Ryan, when are your parents actually leaving?" "Because it's been 2 weeks. I know. The AC company says probably another few weeks before they can come out. It's summer. Everyone's booked." "A few weeks?" "Ryan, we talked about a week." "I know, but what do you want me to do? They can't stay in a house without AC. You wouldn't want that either." Lena stared at him. "They could stay in a hotel?" "A hotel?" "Lena, they're my parents. I'm not telling them to go to a hotel. They're also staying in our house. We didn't agree to this." Ryan sighed. That tired sigh that meant he was done with the conversation. "Can we just not do this right now? It's only a few more weeks. Just be nice about it. Just be nice about it." Those 5 words would echo in Lena's head for the next month. By week 4, Carol had opinions about Lena's job as she worked in marketing. So you just sit around thinking of ways to make people buy things they don't need. Lena's friends, that Melissa seems a little too loud, and Lena's body, "You should really get back to the gym. Honey, you've gained a little weight since I last saw you." Jim wasn't much better. He'd taken over the TV remote like it was his personal property. He'd reorganized the garage. He'd invited his brother over one Saturday without asking, and suddenly Lena was hosting an entire family barbecue in her own backyard while covered in the kind of rage that made her hands shake. She said nothing. Ryan kept saying, "Just let it go." One Tuesday afternoon, Lena was alone in the kitchen when Carol walked in, sat down at the table, and casually mentioned, as if it was the most normal thing in the world, "You know what? I think we'll probably stay here for a few more months. It's not like you two really use all this space anyway. We fit in pretty well, don't we?" Jim's been sleeping better than he has in years. Lena was washing a dish. She didn't turn around immediately. She set the dish down very slowly in the rack. She turned off the water, and then she turned around and looked at Carol. "A few more months. Yeah, it's just easier than dealing with contractors and all that. Plus, we like it here. It's nice. You know Jim loves being around Ryan, and honestly, honey, I think I've been really helpful around here. I've organized things, I've cleaned." "This isn't your house," Lena said quietly. Carol blinked like Lena had slapped her. "Well, I know that, but we're family. Family helps family. Family also respects boundaries. Oh, here we go. This is what Ryan was worried about. He said you might be upset about this, but I told him you were a reasonable person." Lena walked out of the kitchen. She went to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the bed. Her hands were shaking. She texted Ryan, "We need to talk about your parents tonight." "Tonight, Ryan. Not later. Tonight." He texted back almost immediately, "Can't we talk about this weekend? I have a late thing at work." That's when something inside Lena clicked off. Like someone had turned a switch, and all the politeness, all the trying, all the giving them the benefit of the doubt, it just stopped. She opened her laptop. She pulled up Google, and she started researching. She typed in, "property code violations, empty rental homes." And that's when everything changed. The rental property. Lena had heard about it exactly twice in the 5 years she'd been married to Ryan. Both times, Carol and Jim brought it up like it was some kind of burden. How much trouble it was, how nobody respects rental properties anymore, how they'd rather just let it sit empty than deal with the wrong kind of people. Lena had never questioned it. She'd never asked why they had money problems if they owned a second property. She'd never connected the dots, and honestly, that felt intentional on their part. She pulled up the county tax records. It took about 20 minutes of scrolling through the assessor's website, but she found it. A 3-bedroom ranch house in the next town over, listed under Jim and Carol's names. And then she checked the address against the county's code enforcement database. What she found made her breath catch. The property had 17 open violations, unmaintained landscaping, broken gutters, a fence that hadn't been repaired in years, no occupancy for over 3 years. And because of the way the county ordinances were written, there were fines accumulating. Hundreds of dollars every month. Lena's heart started racing. She clicked deeper, finding the actual city codes that applied to their property. According to the regulations, residential properties left vacant for more than 6 months require specific maintenance standards or the owner faces escalating fines and potential code enforcement action. Jim and Carol's property hadn't just violated that, it had been violating it for years. She grabbed her phone. She searched, "real estate attorney near me." It was 7:45 at night. She found a firm that had a chat function on their website. She clicked it. A message popped up. "Thanks for reaching out. We're currently offline, but leave a message and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Lena typed, "I need to know about code enforcement violations on a property in T City name. I think the owners might not be aware of the extent of their liability. Who should they contact? Is there someone who handles these cases? I need a confidential consultation." She hit send. Then she closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a while. Ryan came home around 9. Carol and Jim were already in bed. He found Lena in the living room, sitting in the dark except for the glow of her phone. "Hey, you okay?" he asked. "We need to talk," she said. "But not right now, when your parents aren't here. Tomorrow, before work." "Lena, come on." "Tomorrow, Ryan." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded and went to bed. The attorney responded at 8 in the morning. His name was Marcus Chen, and his message was professional. These violations are serious and can result in significant fines and potential county intervention. If you're concerned about a property, the owner should contact an attorney immediately to discuss remediation options. Call my office. Lena made the call from her car before work. She told him the situation without mentioning that it was her in-law's property. She just said, "I know someone who owns a property with these violations. What are the consequences?" Marcus laid it out plainly. Fines were accumulating daily. The county could file a lion on the property. If the violations weren't addressed, the county could move toward taking possession. And if there was an inspection ordered, which could happen at any time with a complaint filed, and the property failed to meet code, the consequences would accelerate. How long could this take to escalate? Lena asked. Depends. But once a formal inspection is ordered and violations are documented, we're talking weeks, not months. And if they don't remediate, the county moves fast. They don't want these properties sitting around. They file liens, they can auction the property. Lena's hands were shaking again, but this time it was different. This wasn't anger. This was clarity. What if someone filed a complaint? Could that trigger an inspection? There was a pause on the other end of the line. She could almost hear Marcus figuring out what she was really asking. "Yes," he said carefully. An anonymous complaint to code enforcement would trigger an inspection, but I'd recommend that anyone considering that option really think through the implications. These things can get complicated. "I understand," Lena said. "Thank you." She hung up. Ryan was making coffee when she came inside. Carol and Jim weren't up yet. "We need to talk," she said. He followed her to the bedroom. She closed the door. "Your parents aren't staying," Lena said quietly. "I'm done. I'm actually done, Ryan. This isn't negotiable anymore." "Lena, you can't just..." "I'm not finished. I've tried being nice. I've tried being patient. I've tried setting boundaries. Your mom told me yesterday they're staying for months." "Months, Ryan. And you keep telling me to just let it go. So I'm not letting it go anymore." Ryan rubbed his face. "What do you want me to do? Tell them to leave. They're my parents?" "Yes. Tell them to leave." "Tell them today?" "I can't do that." "Then I will." "You're not going to do that either," Ryan said, and there was something almost condescending in his voice, like he was explaining something simple to a child. "Because that's not who you are. You're going to cool off, and by next week, we'll all move past this." Lena stared at him. In that moment, she realized something that probably should have hit her a long time ago. Ryan wasn't going to help her. He was never going to help her. Because helping her meant disappointing his parents, and disappointing his parents was apparently something he'd never learned to do. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." "Okay what?" he asked. But she was already walking past him. She went to the kitchen and made breakfast for everyone like nothing had happened. Carol came out in her robe, sat at the table, and complained about the weather. Jim turned on the news. Ryan kissed Lena on the forehead like he'd won some kind of argument. None of them noticed that she'd stopped participating in any real way, that she was moving through the motions like an actress in a play she was no longer invested in. That night, after everyone was asleep, Lena pulled out her laptop again. She found the Code Enforcement Department's website. There was a form to file a complaint about property violations. Anonymous submissions were accepted. She filled it out with methodical precision, documenting every single violation she'd found in the county records. She attached photos she'd found of the property on Google Street View that showed the deterioration. In the description box, she wrote, "This property has been vacant and unmaintained for over 3 years, multiple code violations, fines accumulating, poses risk to neighborhood, request formal inspection and enforcement action." She hit submit at 2:47 a.m. Then she closed the laptop and went to bed. It would take 48 hours for the inspection to be scheduled. 48 hours for the county to flag the complaint, cross-reference it with their own records, and issue a notice to the property owners that an official inspection would be conducted. When that notice landed in Jim and Carol's mailbox, everything would change. But Lena didn't know that yet. What she knew, as she lay in bed next to her husband who'd chosen his parents over her, was that she'd finally made a choice too. And for the first time in weeks, she slept without dreaming. Thursday morning came quietly. Lena woke up, showered, got dressed, and went through her routine like any other day. Carol was in the kitchen making breakfast for Jim, which she'd started doing without being asked. Lena poured coffee and sat at the table, scrolling through her phone. Ryan left for work around 8:30. "See you tonight," he said, kissing her head. She didn't kiss him back. She just nodded. By 10 a.m., Lena's phone buzzed, an email notification. She recognized the sender immediately, the County Code Enforcement Office. But the email wasn't addressed to her. It was the notification that the inspection had been scheduled. She checked the tracking on it. The county had already sent the notice to Jim and Carol's property address. But there was also a second notice, one that had been sent to their address on file, which, according to the property records, was Lena's house. She heard Carol's phone buzz somewhere in the living room. Then Jim's. Then Carol's voice. "Jim, Jim." Lena set down her coffee and waited. Carol came rushing into the kitchen, her face pale. "Lena, honey, have you seen anything in the mail? Anything from the county?" "No," Lena said calmly. "What's going on?" Jim got a notice about the property. Some kind of code enforcement. They're saying there are violations and they're scheduling an inspection. Tomorrow. They're coming tomorrow?" "That's strange," Lena said, taking a sip of her coffee. "I didn't know you had violations." "No, we didn't know either. This is insane. They're saying we can face fines. Lions, I don't even." Jim's freaking out. He's on the phone with someone right now. Lena could hear Jim in the other room, his voice getting louder. "What do you mean we need a contractor there?" "We can't get a contractor by tomorrow. This is ridiculous." Carol sat down across from Lena, her hand shaking. "This is going to cost us so much money. We're going to need to go back to the house. Today, we have to prepare it, make sure everything is in order before." "So you're leaving?" Lena asked. "What?" We have to. We don't have a choice. If they find more violations, they can file a lion. They can take the property. Jim's been researching this online, and it's bad, Lena. It's really bad? I see, Lena said. Jim came in, his face red, his phone still in his hand. "We're leaving. Pack your stuff. We need to go now." "Right now. Jim, down," Carol said. "We need to think this through. I'm not calming down." "Do you understand what a county lien means?" "It means they can take our property. We need to get there. We need to document everything. We need to call a contractor. He ran his hand through his hair. "I can't believe this is happening." Lena sat silently watching them spiral. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Just a strange, cold clarity. "I'll help you pack," she said quietly. They were in the car within an hour. Carol kept muttering about how this didn't make sense. How could they have violations they didn't know about? Who would file a complaint about an empty property? Jim was on his phone the entire time, trying to reach contractors, trying to reach an attorney. As they drove away, Jim turned back to look at the house one more time. He looked confused, like he couldn't quite understand how they'd gone from comfortable and settled to fleeing in a panic. Lena watched them drive off. Then she went inside her own home, closed the door, and sat down on her couch. She didn't feel the way she thought she would. She'd imagined this moment, imagined it over and over, as this cathartic release. Instead, she just felt tired. Ryan called around 3. "Hey, my mom just texted me. Something about the house? About violations? What's going on?" "They had to leave," Lena said. "Their property has code violations. The county scheduled an inspection for tomorrow." They're panicking. There was a long pause. "How do you know all this?" "I looked it up. After your mom told me they were staying for months." Another pause. "You looked it up?" "Yeah. Like, you researched their property." "Yes." "Ryan. Why would you do that?" Lena didn't answer right away. She was trying to figure out how to explain to her husband that she'd had to figure out a way to save herself because he wouldn't. "Because you wouldn't," she said finally. "Because you told me to just let it go. Because I was drowning in my own house and you kept choosing them over me. So I found another way." "Lena, did you file a complaint with the county?" She didn't say anything. "Oh my God, you did. You actually filed a complaint about my parents' property." "I filed a complaint about code violations that actually exist, Ryan. I didn't make those up. I didn't create those violations. They've been there for years." "You did this out of spite?" "No," Lena said, and her voice was steady. "I did this because you left me no choice. I set boundaries. You ignored them. I asked nicely. You told me to let it go. I tried to have a conversation. You chose your parents. So I chose myself. That's not spite. That's survival. Ryan stopped pacing. He sat down on the couch and put his face in his hands. They're saying they might lose the house, he said quietly. They're not going to lose the house, Lena said. They're going to have to hire a contractor, fix the violations, pay some fines, and move on. It's going to be inconvenient and expensive, but they're not going to lose it. If they were actually struggling with money, they would have fixed it years ago. They chose not to, and they chose to stay here instead of dealing with their own problems. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you made me do this. Those words hung in the air between them. Ryan looked at her then, really looked at her, and Lena could see him finally understanding something. That this wasn't about anger anymore. This was about a line she'd drawn. This was about her saying that she mattered too. What happens now? He asked. I don't know, Lena said. That depends on you, because I'm done. I'm done being the person who keeps the peace by disappearing. I'm done being the person who sacrifices her own comfort to make everyone else comfortable. I'm done, Ryan. And either you're going to understand that and actually be my partner, or... I don't know. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Ryan was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Slowly. I need to talk to my parents. I need to set some boundaries, real ones. With consequences, Lena felt something shift in her chest. Okay, she said. And I need to apologize to you for not listening, for not being there. Yeah, Lena said. You do. Over the next few days, things shifted. Jim and Carol had to hire contractors. The bill was significant. The county inspection found more violations than had been initially reported. Carol didn't call to complain about the inspection or ask Lena for sympathy. She didn't call at all. Ryan had a long conversation with his parents. He told them they couldn't stay in Lena's house without her full agreement. He told them that Lena's comfort and boundaries mattered. He told them that if they didn't respect that, they wouldn't see him as much. It was a conversation that should have happened weeks ago. But it happened now, and that was what mattered. A week later, Lena and Ryan sat on their couch in their house, with no one else in it except them. Lena had reorganized the kitchen back to the way she liked it. Ryan had cleared out the living room. The house felt like theirs again. I'm sorry, Ryan said, for everything, for not listening, for choosing them over you. Lena nodded. She didn't say, it's okay, because it wasn't, not really. But it was a beginning. What made you do it? Ryan asked. The complaint, I mean. When did you decide? When your mom told me they were staying for months, Lena said. And you didn't say anything. You didn't fight. You just accepted it. And I realized I couldn't keep waiting for you to save me. So I saved myself. Ryan was quiet. Then he said, I'm going to do better. You better? Lena said. And then, just slightly, she smiled. The following month, Jim and Carol did finally get the violations fixed. It cost them nearly $8,000. They didn't mention it to Lena or Ryan. But they also never asked to stay at the house again. And when they did visit, they were different. They were careful. They asked before they touched things. They didn't stay for 3 weeks. Some relationships heal, some don't. Lena and Ryan's would take time. There would be more conversations, more boundary setting, more moments where Ryan had to choose his wife over his parents. But he started choosing her. And Lena learned something that night on her couch when she filed that complaint. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't fighting back loudly. It's using the system. It's being strategic. It's knowing exactly what buttons to push and when to push them. Most importantly, she learned that waiting for someone else to save you is a good way to drown. You have to save yourself first. Everything else follows from there. If this story hit you, if you've ever felt alone in a relationship, if you've ever had to make a hard choice to protect yourself, if you've ever realized someone wasn't going to change until there were real consequences, you need to be subscribed. We're sharing stories like this every single week. Stories about real people making real moves. Stories that remind you that you matter. Hit that subscribe button. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And comment below. Have you ever had to set a boundary that actually stuck? We want to hear your story. This is where people find their power. This is where you realize you don't have to wait for permission to protect yourself. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.